Colerain Township Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, February 19th, 2019 will come to order. Would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next thing I would ask that we all silence our phones, please. Do we have a roll call?
Mr. Farron.
Here.
Mr. Grody.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Westfall.
Here. We don't have an alternate here either, do we? Okay. Next on the agenda is election of officers. Officers, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Next is the oath of office for a new member.
Well, I got Miss, we want to start with Miss Smith first.
Okay.
Come on down, Miss Smith.
Mrs. Smith is starting a new term on the board.
I knew she was getting close.
Well, if you want to stand right behind there and do you first, right? Please raise your right hand. I, Colleen Smith,
I, Colleen Smith,
solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and the laws and resolution of Colerain Township,
to the best of my ability, and will faithfully discharge the duties
to the best of my ability, and will faithfully discharge the duties
of a primary member on the zoning commission
of a primary member of the Zoning Commission
in and for Colerain Township,
and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Come on, Ed. Come on.
Yeah.
That phone's are ringing.
Please raise your right hand. I, Lori McMullen,
I, Lori McMullen,
solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
to the best of my ability, and will faithfully discharge the duties
to the best of my ability, and will faithfully discharge the duties
of a primary member on the zoning commission
of a primary member of the Zoning Commission
in and for Colerain Township,
in and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the little smooch that Mrs. Smith received from her husband,
Uh-huh.
very appropriate tonight because today is their 34th anniversary.
Hey, way to go.
I couldn't let that be secret.
That's right. Thank you. That's correct. Okay, next on the agenda is the election of officers. I think that's what that says. The way we do this, we could nominate a chairman and a vice chairman in one package, and we do not have to ask, we do not have to open it for discussion from the audience or anything. This is done among the men on the people, excuse me, Colleen, on the board So the chair opens the nominations for president, for chairman and vice chairman of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission. Do I hear any names mentioned?
I want to nominate Al Grody for chair and Tom Westfield for vice chair.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that Al Grody be named chair and Tom Westfall be named co-chair. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Faring,
Yes.
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the next year of your life. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the December 18th, 2018 plan. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, or changes?
I make a motion they be approved as presented to us.
I'll second that.
Wait 1 second.
Stop, we have a,
Mr. Westfall, Mr. Grody, do you want to change chairs?
Would it be okay if Mr. Westfall continues on tonight and I'll start next month?
That's fine, if you want to defer to
in the past, that's how we've done it.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm willing to change, I
No,
don't
I just
care.
want to make sure.
Okay,
Who made a motion?
They be approved.
second. It's been moved and seconded that the minutes of the December 18th, 2018 meeting be approved. Roll call, please.
Mr. Faring,
Yes.
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Abstain.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Next on the agenda is public address. That's where anybody who's out here that would like to speak to us on anything that is not on the agenda, this is where you do it. Would anybody like to talk to us? We'll listen. None so appearing, the chair will entertain a motion to close public address.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Faring,
Yes.
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Excuse me. Next on the agenda is final development plan, case number ZA 1988-09 and ZA 2016-09. It's at 10270 Colerain Avenue, and it's the Speedway gas station down there. It's a major modification of 2 approved preliminary development plans in an existing PDI planned industrial neighborhood, or district, I'm sorry. Do we have does staff have a presentation?
Yes, we sure do. I want to mention first, the next item on your agenda was a public hearing which was advertised for Joseph Toyota. And as a note, that was withdrawn prior to it going to Regional Planning Commission. We expect it will probably come back possibly in April. So if anybody is here for that public hearing, just know that that will happen. This particular issue is a final development plan. Zoning Commission reviewed and approved, subject to conditions, a preliminary development plan for the same development back in December. That, after Zoning Commission's approval, was forwarded to the Board of Trustees, who accepted that recommendation of the Zoning Commission, and so they agreed to amend the preliminary development plan. The effect of that preliminary development plan was to remove the Speedway gas station from the Colerain Town Center development and transfer it to the Schuylkill Road development, which is adjacent planned development. It also allowed for the increase of the lot area of this particular site. This is located on Colerain Avenue between Schuylkill and 1975. The proposal is to completely demolish the convenience store and gas pump island at its current location and rebuild in a different configuration with the new convenience store that would be just under double the size of the current building, and to add more gas pump capacity both for cars and to add an additional facility for semi-truck nearing completion on their headquarters building. And is part of the Struble Road development. That Struble Road development is a planned industrial district, and the primary uses are going to probably be more industrial in nature. So this is probably one of the more consumer-oriented type businesses that you'll see in this development. The Rumpke headquarters is part of this development. Let me get to the slide. This is the old Colerain Town Center, the original from back in the 70s, showing the location of the property. And then this is the Struble Road development, which was approved back in 2017. And at that time, the Speedway station was not a part of that development, that is now. And that shows the location of the Rumpke headquarters building and parking, plus other industrial type buildings. The main road going into that park is called Generation Drive. That has been fully constructed. I don't think they have their surface asphalt, but the street, the sidewalks, the street lighting, everything else is in place on that now. This was the original approved development plan for Speedway. An aerial photograph. It's a ground level photograph of the site as it exists. This was right before Generation Drive was under construction. Some site drawings of the current site. This is Generation Drive. This is the access drive that goes behind Colerain Town Center. The north access for Speedway currently uses this as an access point and will continue to do so in the proposed plan. The back of Colerain Town Center has kind of a buffering strip between it and the Struble Road Industrial Park. This is the Rumpke headquarters building. View of the site, this looks off the back parking lot of Speedway. You can see that there's quite an elevation drop behind this building, which was a design challenge for this site. The amendment to the Struble Road development showing the reconfiguration of the property lines. This is probably hard to see on the screen, but the proposal is to build a new convenience store with the gas pumps for the consumer type autos on the Colerain Avenue side, and then a truck fueling station in the back. So it would be canopies over both fuel islands in the front and in the back. There's landscaping being proposed, streetscape. One of the conditions of the preliminary development plan was to install a buffer strip on the west or east property line, acknowledging that there's going to be a fire station probably next door that would be manned 24 hours a day, and to provide a little bit of buffering on that. And that is being provided with this plan. There's several conditions and variances that I've noted in the staff report, and rather than keep flipping back and forth, I'm probably going to describe as we kind of go through these various plans what those items are. So I'm going to be jumping ahead just a little bit. One of the requirements for having a buffer strip is that it be on the property on which it's being required for development. You're not supposed to put it on the neighboring property. This is a little bit unusual circumstance. They do have some grade issues at the back. Plus, it's really the Colerain's preference to have that buffer strip in the first place. So we would recommend granting a variance to allow them to actually do the planting on the property that Colerain would probably be acquiring for that fire station. In the sense that we have not acquired that property yet, they've included in the application package consent from Rumpke, who is the current property owner, that they're amenable to having that landscaping on the property. So that's a recommended variance from staff, is to allow that to happen.
One of the other things that we were looking at is the number of street trees, but I don't think that's on that plan. This is the grading plan, which looks a little bit frightening at first, looking at all those contour lines, but those are actually, I believe, 6-inch contours, or they're, half-foot contours, which makes it look much, much steeper, even though it is somewhat steep. But this just really shows that it drains properly. There's a stormwater detention basin that's at the southeast corner of the property, and everything drains to that. One of the conditions that we had in the staff report is that the public sidewalk is supposed to be in the right-of-way, and there's just a tiny, tiny section that technically doesn't meet that. And since they're already providing additional right-of-way on Colerain Avenue, the recommendation is that they put that sidewalk in the right-of-way. Signs, there's a package of both wall signs and freestanding signs. In the case of wall signs, the allowance is based on the front foot of buildings on the property facing a public street. Since this faces two public streets, they actually get credit for the north and the west side of the building, which ends up being 144 feet long. That gives them an allowance of 144 square feet of signs for the wall. And this is what they look like. We do have a provision that the wall signs, if they want to take that wall sign area, they're flexible in terms of where they can place that on structures in the site. They can put them on the back of the building. They can pay, things that are not street facing, and they can put them on the canopy, so long as the total square footage does not exceed the 144 square feet. And we'll see that there's going to be some more on that. One of the other variances that we noted for buildings, boy, this gets complicated on the architectural design. Buildings that are over 60 foot long and have a wall length of 60 foot long have to have certain breaks in the front architecture of the building by offsets. And those offsets should not leave a wall with more than 40 foot of length being unbroken. The front wall of this building complies with the exception of that yellow oval, and that section is about 55 feet long rather than the 40-foot max. And the question I have as staff, the intent is to just sort of visually break up the front of the building so it's not just a flat, plain surface. This particular case, it's sort of the average between the two sides of the front door are under the 40 feet. There's windows, there's a variety of building materials. So we're recommending that a variance be granted on that to allow that to extend 15 feet further than the 40-foot maximum. So that's one of the items in your variance. Another item, this is the ends of the building elevation drawing. The side entry that faces Generation Drive. Entries are supposed to have 3 architectural elements, and there's a list of 9 items, kind of a menu in the code that needs to be complied with. The front entry has all 3, or has 3 of the items in the list. This particular doorway only has 2 of the items. One of the items is having display windows next to the door, which this has. One of the items is having a patio out in front, and this has it. It needs a third. I've talked to the applicant, and they are proposing that they put a canopy over the door. That would give them the third item. So we're recommending actually compliance with those 3 items as a condition. This is more detail over the plaza area. Will have a little outdoor seating area with umbrellas. Site lighting is another item that we're recommending a variance. There are it's supposed to be 0-foot candles at the property lines. And they have slightly exceeded it in 4 locations. Those 4 locations are actually at the entry drives. One of the somewhat fallacy of this, the photometrics when they're doing the site, they don't account for the street lighting, because a lot of times they just don't have the information of the intensity and all that. But the fact is, it's probably going to be over 0-foot candles on the street just by virtue of having street lights. And then regardless of that, there's probably a safety issue of having slightly more lighting at the entries just so you can see them at night. So for the amount of lighting that they're showing, staff is recommending a variance on that. We have a traffic pattern illustration. I put extra arrows on it. The current access that goes to that driveway that goes behind Colerain Town Center, that is right in and right out only on Colerain Avenue. Exiting traffic has to go out Generation Drive. There is a new traffic signal now at Generation Drive, and that allows for all 4-way free access, free flow of traffic. The customer entry has both entrance and exit going through that portion of the site. The truck portion at the rear is 1-way traffic flow only. So they'll be entering at the very rearmost curb cut and then exiting out the one that's closest to Colerain Avenue. So you can kind of see how that flow goes. This is the landscape plan again. There is a requirement that you have to have 24 street trees. It's 1 per 35 feet. There's 800 some feet of street frontage. They provided 17 trees and 7 additional trees are needed. And we've noted that as a condition of approval, that we would like to see those 7 additional trees on this property. The signage, I've kind of highlighted on there. The red signs are freestanding signs. The ones next to the truck entries are considered directional signs. The one out by the corner of Colerain Avenue and Generation Drive is a monument style sign. The yellows are the locations of all the wall signs. The rear canopy for the trucks has 4 wall signs on it. The building has 3 wall signs, and the front canopy has 4 wall signs. I thought I had a total of square footage in here. This is the proposed monument sign that is in the front. It's proposed at 15 feet in height and 150 square feet in size. By comparison, the current sign that is out there is 60 square feet in size. So it's less than half the size, almost a third of the size of the proposed new sign. And I want to kind of go back when the preliminary development plan was approved and then confirmed by the Board of Trustees. There was a condition, there were 6 conditions. Most of them are fairly general, but one of them was that the signage submitted with the final development plan comply with the style of the Rumpke office building to the north. The thought was, now that this part of the Struble Road development plan, that there be some consistency in terms of the scale of signs. For the directional signs in the rear, the zoning allows for a maximum height of 3 feet. They're proposing 5 feet is the height, so they're asking for a 2-foot height variance. The maximum size allowed is 4 square feet. The proposed size is 15.5 square feet. It's almost 4 times the size of what we would allow for a directional sign. The Rumpke Monument, the one on Generation Drive, the lettering is only 7.8 square feet, and that's for their main, well, there's 2 monument signs that were approved as part of the Rumpke development. One up on Colerain Avenue and one at their Generation Drive entrance, and that was a variance on their approval of their preliminary or their final development plan. The idea was, I look back in the discussion of that the one on Colerain was to be sort of a master development sign that would go for all of the industrial park, like Struble Road Industrial Park or whatever they are going to call it. When the sign package came in, they both said Rumpke on it. Now, that doesn't mean they can't change the sign later, but in the same token, we really don't have the ability to dictate content in terms of what those signs actually say. So, but case in point, though, this is 7.8 square feet of lettering, and the directional sign that they're proposing is 15.5, so that's about double the size of the Rumpke monument. The one out by Colerain Avenue is 25.4 square feet is their main sign. Keep in mind that they are proposing 150 square feet for the main Speedway sign. So that's 6 times the size of that particular sign. Staff does recommend for approval, subject to conditions and variances. You know, the lion's share of things we think complies. Signage is probably, from staff standpoint, the key issue on this particular plan. Conditions, number 1, that the public sidewalk be dedicated. I have that little illustration for that right away. Second, customer entry design, that customer entry facing Generation Drive, if the applicant's willing to put the canopy over it, that would meet that particular condition. Driveway sign size be permitted at a maximum of 4 square feet. Keeping in mind that is what is required by code. And also that the driveway sign height be kept at 3 square feet. From staff standpoint, if all they're trying to do is direct trucks in and out, it doesn't need to be tremendously large or have a lot of wording on it that would require additional size and height. Street trees, that they provide the additional 7 trees to meet their 1 per 35 feet of frontage. Ground sign height, we're recommending that the maximum height be 7 feet for the monument sign, recognizing uniform height of the Colerain Town Center. We noted before, now the current sign was approved at 6 feet. This would give them an additional height of 1 foot over what they've got now. But the Wendy's, the AutoZone that's currently under construction, we don't have a sign for them. Burger King, tire discounters, they were all held to 7 feet in height, 70 square feet in size. Number 6, the ground sign height, maximum of 7 feet be approved in recognition of the uniform height on Colerain Town Center. And number 7, ground sign size, to be approved at 70 square feet in size. The current one is actually 57 square feet, so this would be 13 square feet larger than what they've got now, if they met this. Now, on the monument sign, we're recommending kind of a mid-ground between what they have now. Well, not mid, but it's more than what they've got now, but much less than what they are asking, if you kind of see the magnitude in that. The variances on the wall sign, it allows for 144 square feet on both frontages. They are at, I thought I had that total in here. I know it's in the staff report. It'd be 144 plus 204 is what they're asking for 204 square feet more than what they're allowed. We're recommending to split that and give them 100 square feet. Yeah, 348 square feet is what they're asking for. 144 is what is allowed. I think for this particular development, because they have the canopies, I hate to do this, but I'm going to jump back. Some of the signs just, this shows all the locations. Like the back ones, it's one-way traffic. So the only signs you're going to really see are the ones you see coming in. By the time you're pulling out and leaving, I'm not sure what the additional signs on the back side of the canopy really do for you. Also on the front canopy, there's a sign that faces back towards the building. It seems like that is not necessarily the most effective. Now, with that said, I don't want to be the one deciding exactly where it is. I'd like to give them a square footage of allowance and say, you do what you think is most effective with that square footage. That's really how our recommendation reads. And architectural wall offsets, we're recommending the variance on that 55-foot wide section just because architecturally and even the wall plane of the entry that protrudes out from the front wall and goes up through the roof line. I believe the intent of that wall plane break is made with their proposed design. And the rear buffer yard, that be allowed to be adjacent, located on the adjacent property, which is a variance. So that is the staff, oh, wait, two more, sorry. Minimum parking spaces, I hadn't mentioned that before. They are 4 spaces short of meeting their required 31 parking spaces. Because of the type of development this is, now, I'm giving them 31 parking spaces. They have said their intent is to have room for 3 trucks to park in the back. They can pull forward from the pumps, go in and pay, while somebody else pulls up behind them and starts refueling. So I'm counting those as parking spaces. But because this is a convenience store that people are filling up, we don't normally count spaces at the gas pumps as parking spaces. But because there are so many pumps, I think in reality, people are going to just leave their car at the pump, go in, pay for the gas, go back. They're not going to pull into parking spaces. So I think that we're safe in giving them the 4 space variance based on that. And then the maximum light levels at those entry drives, that they be given a variance to allow them that additional lighting at the entrances. I know that's a lot of detail and minutia, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to field those.
Mr. Grody?
None.
Any questions?
None.
Mrs. Smith?
None at this time.
Mark, do you have any?
Man, where do I start?
Mr. Ferry, do you have any? I'm sorry.
I guess I just had a couple concerns, mainly with the signs, you know, the size of the signs. Those ones that are on the in and out of the truck pumps, those are 15 square feet?
Correct, 15 and a half.
I'm just afraid if we allow that there, you're gonna have another 7, 8, 9 buildings or whatever down that road in the end. Then everybody's gonna want these huge signs, and that's what we're trying to get away from, making Colerain Avenue look like a billboard. You know, they have a beautiful building next door. The Rumpke building is awesome, the nicest building in Colerain Township, I think. But I don't wanna see it cluttered up with a bunch of signs. Other than that, most of the other stuff I think they can work with. You've addressed most of those.
Ms. McMullen?
I agree with Mr. Faring. The directional signs are a concern to me as well. Mostly for me, it's the exit sign. Depending on how tall the trucks are and how tall that sign is, are they gonna have trouble seeing clearly to be able to turn left back onto Generation Drive? But other than that, I think that it's a beautiful design, and I like the grading and the signage, and yeah, that's just my only concern.
Okay, I have no questions. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Woker. I'm a planner with McBride Dale Colerain, representing Speedway. I have with me Christopher Duffy. He is the Speedway construction manager. I appreciate Mr. Kohler's detailed evaluation of the plan and summary. I do want to cover a couple points. Before I go into a lot of detail, I will say that we do not have any objections to a majority of the conditions, and not surprisingly, we want to talk to you about signs. If you remember, we were here in December talking about the preliminary development plan and spent some time then kind of telling you what our philosophy on signs were, and not surprisingly, we're still talking about signs. So I do think that the staff has been working with us on this, and so I would like to point out 3 items that I'd ask the commission to consider in the staff report. First would be condition number 3 and 4. They kind of go together, and that has to do with the size of the directional sign. So we are, in the application, requesting a 15 square foot, 5 foot tall sign. What the staff is recommending is a standard directional sign that the code allows, which would be no more than 3 feet tall and 4 square feet. And I guess we would like to ask for the commission to consider maybe one more middle ground there. And I'm going to pass out this plan. What I've just handed out is an 8 square foot sign, and it's just under 4 feet tall. And I know it feels like we're really trying to parse this thing to the nth degree, but what we had talked about in the preliminary development plan, and why we're still banging on this issue, is that we've got concerns that trucks enter and exit the right way. We're not trying to advertise on these signs. We're not putting Speedway's name on it. We think that a 4 square foot, 3 foot tall sign is going to be inadequate for our truck customers that are driving an 18-wheeler, a large truck up in the air, to see that. And because our circulation pattern of the site is important that they come in the entrance and exit the right way so that we have the correct flow of traffic, we think that it's worth continuing to talk to you about. So, we clearly see that the township has concerns about the 15 square foot sign, and we see the direction staff is going, but we would ask that the commission consider modifying condition number 3 to allow us to be 8 square feet, and condition number 4 to allow us to be 4 feet. So that's 1 foot taller. It'd be shorter than this podium. And be 8 square feet. We would put masonry around the sign. This just isn't as detailed, but we would have a masonry base around that. And I do understand that you're concerned about precedent, but I would suggest that this is a fairly unique situation in that we have truck customers regularly entering and exiting, and that the flow of traffic is an important component to it. So it's a safety issue that we feel is worth continuing to ask for consideration on. So I guess that's 2 items, but that's the first item that I would ask that the commission consider modifying the staff recommendation on. And then the second item, not surprisingly, I promised it would be about signs, so I'm gonna hand you another. So again, I spend a lot of my time talking about signs, it feels like, and brief history. The reason we started with the 15-foot tall, 150 square foot sign has to do with the regulations of the zoning ordinance. So a PDI, a Planned Development Industrial District, when you read the ordinance, it says that the maximum sign area for a development in the PDI would be 15 feet tall and 150 square feet. But as you know, then there's a negotiation that happens when you create a planned development. And we had kind of a unique situation in that we were leaving the Colerain Town Center and entering the Struble Road Development Park. And again, just a little bit of history. We spent some time with staff trying to figure out which was the right direction to go. And it really was kind of a 6 1, half dozen the other. I mean, we would have been permitted in the Colerain Town Center, kind of felt cleaner to just be in the Struble Development Park. And so that was the change that was made. But there really wasn't a clear definition in the Struble Road Development Park about how big of a sign you'd be allowed. So I go over that point because I feel, I don't want you to take offense that we started at 150, because that's, the reason we started there was because the PDI said that's what you're allowed to have. As we went through the process, and we're still going through it with you now, it became clear that you felt that sign was bigger than was appropriate. And you may recall in December, I tried to push the commission a little bit to try and give me feedback about what size would be appropriate. And we kind of deferred that discussion to right now. You know, we said the appropriate size is going to be what staff recommends, is what, you know, the consensus of the commission was. And so the staff's recommendation is for 70. We started at 150. What I handed to you is a sign that's 98 square feet. It's dressed up, it's taller than what the staff condition is, but we can change that. We can make this sign be 7 feet tall, and we would agree to that. You know, we would take the brick off the top and, you know, put the sign on the ground. Again, it's kind of like the same point I made with the directional sign, driveway signs, is that, you know, we feel it's important enough to continue to discuss it with you. What this sign has in front of you, you'd have a speedway panel that's 49 square feet. AutoZone would have a 70 square foot panel. Colerain or Burger King, a 70 square foot panel. We have a situation of our own making potentially, but we have to advertise our prices, right? So we take half of our sign and we put what the sign prices are, the prices of the fuel. And again, that's kind of our cross to bear, but we think it's reasonable to explain to you, that's why our sign looks bigger, and that's why it is bigger, because we have fuel prices on there. We think 3 grades are important, being able to say what the diesel price is, and that's why we're asking for 98 square feet. And I know that I've been working in Colerain Township for a long time, and I know you've been working on signs. And we respect that. I mean, I don't think that this is going to change the character of the area in a negative way. It's going to be a ground sign that's got landscaping around it, frankly, kind of coming down into a hole. You know, we're going to struggle to get it up high enough for you to see it. And so, you know, again, we think it's important enough to ask for that, and that we're a unique type of situation where a 98 square foot is not detrimental and not inappropriate. The other conditions we can live with, you know, Mr. Kohler mentioned our solutions with the architecture, the lighting, and other elements. You know, the trees, you know, we can do that. And we've worked well with Rumpke on creating an easement to allow us to plant landscaping, which frankly is not something we're required to do. You know, we typically don't have to buffer between industrial uses, but, you know, we agreed to do that landscaping to satisfy a concern that the township has, and hope you consider that deliberation. So I can talk more about the other conditions. We don't have arguments about those, so I figured I would just talk about number 3 and 4 and 7 and ask you to consider changing 3 to 8 and 4 to 4 and 7 to 98. That's the extent of my presentation, and I'll try and answer questions if you have them.
Rex McMullen?
So for this one here, you said to change the height of it to reduce it, you would lose the top and the bottom?
Yeah, so it would be, what you're looking at is a 7, the cabinet is 7 feet tall. And so that was the only illustration that I had to present to you. So it would be, unless you wanted this, I mean, we could build this and make it 9 feet, you know, whatever combination of that.
Right.
We're committed to doing that, but we're trying to keep within the 7 foot that staff recommends.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Farring?
I got a question, but it's probably for Martin. When we're talking our sign code, and you say you don't want it any more than 7 feet tall or so many square footage, is that just the lens? I mean, if somebody comes in and they build a 30-foot tall brick structure and they put a sign on it that's only 7 foot tall, I mean, that's what we basically have here. We have a 9 foot.
From grade level, grade to top.
Okay, but as far as square footage, of the sign, are we measuring just the letter cabinet that's inside of this sign that they can make whatever size they want?
Yeah, actually, we do. If they want to do things that are simply structural, we don't include that in the square footage.
Okay, that's my question.
Mrs. Smith?
I had a question about the driveway. So there's 2 separate entrances, one for the trucks and one for cars? Is that the way it goes?
Almost. There's actually going to be 3 driveways on Generations Drive.
Mhm.
So the first driveway will be for cars, auto customers only. And then after you pass that, as illustrated on this plan, and then the next 2 driveways will be for trucks. So the trucks and the autos wouldn't intersperse, they would be separated. And then you'd have an entrance only for trucks at the east side, and then an exit only for trucks in the middle.
So where does the cars exit from?
The cars would exit most likely back to Generations, because most likely they're gonna wanna go to that traffic signal. Or they can come out to the bottom of that plan, which would be the shared driveway we have with the shopping center.
Okay, I think last time you were here, you spoke of a traffic study that was in process?
The developer, Miller Valentine and Rumpke, did the traffic study. So their traffic study determined that a traffic signal was warranted, and so they've put that traffic signal in.
So how does that affect the traffic coming out to Colerain Avenue?
Their solution of having the traffic signal should quote-unquote fix that. So they have planned that signal for us, expecting us to be there, as well as for future development back on Generations.
And they don't foresee problems with traffic backups?
No, and I would say, having worked with the Ohio Department of Transportation, if they weren't comfortable with it, they would not have approved it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Grody?
None.
I have none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody on the board have anything they would like to say before we vote?
I do have one more question.
Okay.
So we have, you said 18-wheelers. Is Generation Drive wide enough to handle them having to swing out and get into that
Yes, and
roadway?
actually what you see on the slide is what we call a truck turning template. So what we coordinated with the Township Public Services Department. We met them out on site and staked the driveways. And we met with Miller Valentine to make sure, who's the developer, they were building the road in the Rumpke, to make sure that our driveways were coordinated with the light poles they were putting in. So the short answer is yes. And as I understand it, this road is intended for more trucks. So, you know, there's gonna be other trucks coming back in future development for what you hope to have built back there, warehouses or, you know, whatever else it might be.
I do have one more question.
Mr. Grody,
No, I'm prepared to make a motion if
we're
you're
not
ready.
quite ready for that yet.
Okay.
Mr. Ferry,
I just have one more question. The road, Generation Drive, is that a township road or who?
It will be. Currently, it's not a dedicated public street, but they have to either complete construction or bond some of the remaining improvements. But that is the intent, is that it will be.
Okay.
okay, are there any other questions? The chair will entertain a motion to accept the final development plan ZA 1988-09, ZA 2016-09, at 270 Colerain Avenue, Speedway Gas Station.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation, or make a motion regarding the final development plan, ZA 1988-09 and ZA 2016-09, 10270 Colerain Avenue Speedway. And my recommended motion is that it be approved with the conditions and variances that have been presented to us by staff this evening, as they are written.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the final development plan ZA 1988-09 and ZA 2016-09. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Mr. Grady,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, next on the agenda is case number ZA 2010-06, Liberty Nursing Assisted Living Final Development Plan request for an extension. Staff, would you-
Yeah, the provisions of a final development plan are that they obtain a building permit within 1 year of the approval. This was approved at your last, February 2018 meeting. They have just submitted last Friday for a zoning permit from us. It'll take us a few days to process that, but then their next step is to go to Hamilton County, and they can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days sometimes to turn around a building permit, so that's going to put them over their time limit. So they are asking for some additional time to get that building permit. And staff has no problems with doing that.
Anybody have any questions for Mark? Okay. The chair entertains a motion that we extend the final development plan of case number ZA 2010-06, Liberty Nursing Assisted Living. Do we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion for case ZA 2010-06, Liberty Nursing Assisting Living Final Development Plan Extension.
Can we specify a year extension just in case?
That's fine. Yeah, 1 year.
1 year?
Mhm.
Okay.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept a 1-year extension on case number ZA 2010-06, Liberty Nursing Assisted Living. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Mr. Grady,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is a public hearing, which we are not going to have. It was canceled.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of motion here, a point of an item I need to bring up. You said this was withdrawn, Mr. Kaler? This item number 5?
Yeah, it's temporarily withdrawn.
Okay. Does that have any what they eventually might bring back to us, there's some work going on down there right now already. Is that of any of our concern, or what they're going to bring back? Does that affect that in any way?
What they've done is they purchased a single-family house on Pool Road, which is zone BDB, and a business facing Colerain Avenue that's zone B2, and they've demolished the structures with the intent of expanding their business onto those properties. Plus, they have purchased a section of the bowling alley parking lot. And it's just a matter of getting their plans together for how they propose to do that at this point. They cannot start construction on any kind of auto-related facilities without approval here.
Okay, so that's what has to come back to here eventually.
Correct. Because it was initiated as a planned development for the Pool Road section, 5, 6 years ago, any amendment to that would need to come back to this board.
Okay, thank you.
I can't, next on the agenda is an informal concept review. We have none. Is there any old business?
None.
Any new business? Administration have any announcements? Whoops, administrative business.
Oh,
Any
I'm sorry.
announcements from the administration?
None.
The next meeting is scheduled for March 19th. Do we have any cases?
Actually, we don't have any in hand right now. It's looking now that it probably won't be till April, but we'll send you an email confirmation.
The chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We move to second, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.